You know, sometimes the most powerful stories aren't in books or movies. They're actually hidden in plain sight, tucked away in spreadsheets. Today, we're going to crack open the files of a local animal shelter to find the human story buried inside their numbers.
It's a question we probably all think about. What does it really take? It's way more than just food and a roof over their head, right? It's time, it's attention, it's making them feel safe, and it's a deep connection with the community. But how on earth do you measure that? How do you put a number on hope?
Well, that's what we're doing today. We're going behind the scenes. We're not just looking at the final adoption stats. We are digging into the internal weekly reports, the sign-in sheets, the handwritten notes, all of it, to uncover the incredible story of how a volunteer program became the shelter's secret engine.
Every great organization has one, right? That force that works tirelessly in the background, making everything else possible. Well, at this animal shelter, that unseen engine is, without a doubt, its team of volunteers. And this wasn't just some happy accident. The program was built with a really clear mission. This was never just about walking dogs. It was a whole strategy to boost animal welfare, to run events without breaking the bank, to handle crucial projects, and maybe most importantly, to build a real bridge between the shelter and the community it serves.
Okay, so let's get into this. The data we're looking at, it wasn't spit out by some fancy software. It was put together by hand, week after week, by a real person. They'd copy last week's file, check the physical calendar on the wall, add up the sign-in sheets, and even had to rely on their own notes and memory to guess at future shifts. The whole process is just so human, and that's exactly what makes this story so great.
All right, so our story kicks off in the spring of 2025. The volunteer program is just starting to find its footing, and the first little seeds of this community effort are beginning to sprout.
By the end of May, the total stood at just over 361 hours. I mean, that's a solid start. But the real challenge wasn't just getting people to show up. It was figuring out how to actually track all their contributions accurately.
And this little note from an early report, it says it all. There was this huge jump in hours, not because a ton of new people suddenly appeared, but because they finally got the data back from a local college they were partnering with. It just perfectly captures that early struggle and the win of just trying to get a clear picture.
And this is where things really start to get exciting. What happened next was basically a tidal wave of enthusiasm. As spring turned into summer, those early seeds just absolutely exploded.
By the end of June, get this, the total hours had more than doubled to almost 740. Now, we're not talking about a little bump here. This is real acceleration. You can feel the momentum building. The word is getting out, and the community is starting to respond in a huge way.
Then look at July. They completely smashed through the 1,000-hour mark, hitting over 1,200 total hours. I mean, think about that for a second. In just 1 month, the volunteers put in almost as many hours as they had in the entire spring combined. The growth is just becoming exponential at this point.
And by the time summer wrapped up, the total had climbed to over 1,700 hours. The program had built this powerful, undeniable trend of growth. But all this energy, it wasn't just for show. It was all building towards something big. So, with all this incredible momentum from the summer, what do you do with it? Well, you channel it. As fall rolled around, the program shifted from just growing to focused, strategic action, all aimed at one major event.
And this timeline just illustrates that shift perfectly. It started with one person, a volunteer using their professional design skills for 9 hours to create the event poster. A week later, the first 14 specific shifts for the event are on the books. And by late October, boom, commitment is at its peak with 71 future shifts all signed up. This was a coordinated, focused push.
So we've seen the story of growth, right? We've watched the hours pile up, but what does all that actually mean? Where did all that time and all that energy really go? Let's break it down.
This is the heart of the story right here. A staggering 84% of all volunteer time was spent directly on animal care and enrichment. This wasn't just people filing papers in the back. This was frontline, hands-on work that directly improved the lives of the animals every single day.
So what does that 84% actually look like in real life? It's all the simple, vital things. It's walking a nervous dog, playing with a shy cat, leash training puppies so they're ready for their new home. It's grooming, taking professional photos for adoption profiles, even fostering. Every single one of these tasks is a building block for a successful adoption.
And if you want to see the big picture in one shot, here it is. In just 6 months, applications to volunteer more than doubled. The number of fully trained volunteers quadrupled. and the total hours they contributed, an incredible almost 700% increase. That's the definition of explosive growth, and it was powered entirely by community spirit.
But, as powerful as those numbers are, they really don't capture the whole story. The real soul of this program isn't in the totals. It's in the little notes jotted down in the margins of those weekly reports. Because this is where we find the humanity, This is where we see the person behind the spreadsheet trying to deal with the beautiful, messy reality of it all.
I love this note from June. A couple submitted a single application, so one, but also kind of two. The spreadsheet wants a clean number, but reality is more complicated. It's such a small, charming detail that just reminds you there's a real person doing this work.
Or this one from October, this is my absolute favorite. The numbers this week are not mathing, as the children say. They go on to explain how the data got messy, and then they end with this perfect line. The total has been corrected to the numbers of humans who volunteered with us this week. It's not about the entries, it's about the humans.
And that's the journey we've just uncovered. What started with a few spreadsheets and just word of mouth, it became a force that delivered over 2,600 hours of care. It grew from just trying to track individual people into a coordinated team that powered a major adoption event, changing the lives of so many animals.
Every single hour given, every little note jotted down in a report, it all built a real, tangible lifeline for animals in need. It kind of makes you wonder, right? What's the unseen engine? That quiet, persistent force for good in your own community?